Hey, Husker fans, welcome to the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. We're here on a victory Black Friday after we finally beat Iowa. Fuck you, Iowa and Kirk Ferentz, 24-17. The Huskers, about gave us a heart attack there after a 24-0 win, but they finally, after 8 years, beat Iowa. Was it worth the wait, Danny?
It was worth the wait. We finally fucking did it after so many close calls. We finally defeated Iowa. And for once, the
This is for
once
Kirk Ferentz right here.
absolutely. And we can add two more right here, but finally the one score game went in our favor. I mean, we kind of caused our own self-inflicted one score game, but at least we held on. And winning in Iowa is not easy, so this was, all things considered, a pretty damn good win.
Yeah, it's definitely the best win that Nebraska football's had literally in years. I mean, since Scott Frost has been the head coach, since he was hired. I mean, going back to, yeah, the last time they won in Iowa was the Bo Pelini day when he got fired, and so maybe this is the sign that the curse of Bo is going to finally end. But yeah, I know 24-0 lead, and I mean, what can you say about Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson was slinging. The second half was scary, man. That was like almost the same old Nebraska, but I'm glad that the defense, found a way to get some stops at the end. And, the pass rush, those guys, they finally delivered. Garrett Nelson, Sean Mathis on that last drive, Caleb Tanner, they made just enough plays to win it. So, I mean, huge win for the team. And I'm really happy for, Mickey Joseph to go out with this win and, for these seniors to come out on top against Iowa. I mean, it's not a bowl game, but it's the next best thing to cap their careers and to cap this season.
One for a trophy case that is collecting cobwebs. So that's always a really good thing. And it was funny. I tweeted, "Why haven't we seen Ramir Johnson all season?" Next thing, he fumbles. Then I get everybody in my mention saying, "Oh, are you sure about that?" Blah blah blah. And then I also forgot that he had the drop pass against Illinois. So maybe that's why. But in any event, we held on. Garrett Nelson had another strong game. He's had a strong season, and
Yep.
so it was really good to see him and Mathis play well. And, you know, one thing that I'm going to kind of try to keep short because I can go on about this for like 30 minutes. The tempo that we showed in the second half, that slowed tempo, I've literally been banging my head against my television, screaming at Mark Whipple to run that exact slow tempo. We finally did it. Too little, too late, but it was great to see, and it was just like football porn almost. I don't know what other way to call it, but it was just crazy. It was great to see, and you know, phew, we finally got it done.
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely worried when they got the ball back down seven. I honestly thought Mickey should have went for it, but it was smart that they didn't. I guess they
Yeah.
probably would have got stuffed. But you know, I don't know how Trey Palmer didn't just reach out for the first down. That I still am kind of like wondering how that didn't happen. But the defense made plays. I mean, even though Quentin Newsom dropped a couple of chances, I mean,
Mm,
they did just enough to win this game. And that's the thing is, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. You just have to win. And it would have been really frustrating though to lose another double digit lead against the because I mean you think about it, four out of the six Big Ten West teams had a double digit lead and only won one of those games. So I mean there is some frustration there, and now that we're sitting 2 games away from a bowl game, I mean this team probably should have went 6-6. I mean today
mm,
they definitely looked like they had the time. I mean this Iowa team was going to the Big Ten championship game with a win, so I mean that made it doubly sweet to knock them out of the Big Ten title game and just to beat those guys. I mean, it just feels so good to beat Iowa. We're going to have this, to be able to rub in
yep.
their face for the next year. And definitely, I'm going to rub this in your face, Iowa fans, like definitely, because we've been on the other end of it for 8 years now, 8 long years. And so, it was great to finally get, this win. It was, a little too late, I guess, for, Mickey's coaching chances. I'm sure people are going to say, I'm sure the people that have wanted Mickey are going to, talk about that. And I guess that'd be a good segue because, the really, while I don't want to overshadow this win, the big news, kind of broke 30 minutes before kickoff. Not that it wasn't like a total surprise, but, about Matt Rhule, there's finally some multiple ESPN reporters saying that, a deal is going to be finalized. They're negotiating it right now. So, it feels good to beat Iowa, and it also feels good to know that it looks like we got our next head coach. So what do you think about Matt Rhule?
I really like him. Obviously, I don't think that he is a home run hire or a sexy hire, because that to me would be like a Lane Kiffin, or even, as much as I've been on the no Urban train, and Urban Meyer, because let's face it, he's a big name. But I do really like the hire. Rule can build offensive and defensive lines, and that's exactly what we need. He took over uh, a Baylor program that was kind of in shambles following all the stuff with the Art Briles regime, so to speak, and he kind of turned them around really quickly. He took over a Temple program before that, and got them to some bowl games, which is hard to do, especially since Temple is not exactly a powerhouse football program. But I really like his resume of being able to turn programs around quickly, and also being able to build offensive and defensive lines, because that's exactly what we need right now. And like I've said before, I'll be interested to see what the assistant pool is in terms of money, and who he brings to Lincoln, because that, is also a huge part. And not to go back to this, but if Scott Frost hired better assistants, he may still be here. Who knows? So the assistants are almost as big as the head coaching hire itself.
Yeah, obviously, and I think that's going to be the big question: is what's going to happen, with Mickey Joseph? Is he going to? That's obviously the number one question, I think, on just about everybody's mind. With Matt Rhule, is he going to keep Mickey? Man, I think it would be a good idea to give Mickey a raise and have him be, the associate head coach. But we'll see how that works out. We'll see how things play out. The coaching staff is going to be important, and we'll see. I mean, we're still kind of waiting for the final, report that it's a done deal. But at this point, I really think it would have to be, something crazy would have to happen for Matt Rhule, not to be the next head coach. And yeah, I do think it's a great hire for Nebraska. I mean, you look at, yeah, it's not Luke Fickell, it's not Urban Meyer, but I think you got one of the best coaches available out there. And it's not you're not taking Dave Doreen from North Carolina. That's one that I would have been really underwhelmed with. And I just think that Rule has a lot of attractive qualities for Nebraska. He's, like you said, he's coached offensive line, he's coached defensive line, he's been a recruiting coordinator, he's been a special teams coordinator, he's won he won a conference title at Temple, he's taken 2 programs to a conference championship game, which
Which is hard
I
to
get.
do.
Yeah, and I get he didn't win it at Baylor, but he only stayed there for 3 years too. And I think, to me, Nebraska is, I know that it's not the program that it used to be, but if you can win here, if you have success here, I do think that it's a destination job. I don't think that Matt Rhule is going to, have, put together 10-win seasons at Nebraska and leave for another program. That is my kind of argument. I mean, I just don't see, I mean, would Texas be a better job than Nebraska? I mean, maybe there's one out there if he really wants to be in Texas, but I think if he wins here, that he's going to have a chance to be here for, the next 10 years. And I think that that's exactly what this program needs, winning a lot of games over the next decade.
I do too, and not to go off on a sidetrack too much, but depending on who he keeps on the staff, I hope Bill Bush gets another job somewhere if he doesn't stay at Nebraska, because what he's been able to do with this defensive unit in just a short amount of time, he did a really nice job, and I think Nebraska did another good job defensively today. So I'll be interested to see where Bush lands, but definitely a tip of the cap, at least from my perspective, to him, because I thought he did a really good job this season. And I think with Rule isn't a sleek name or a sexy name, and he doesn't exactly play the again, sleek and sexy brand of football, but he plays the tough football, the grinding football. He's not afraid to get down and dirty when it comes to coaching, in terms of just running and winning battles in the trenches. So I think it would be a great fit for Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, this might annoy some people, but he has a lot of the same philosophies as like PJ Fleck. Be smart on special teams.
I would love
Win.
PJ Fleck for the record here. I don't care. Like,
Yeah,
he's a winning coach. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why I get he's from Minnesota, but I don't know why so many fans would be against getting PJ Fleck. He runs a very good program. Anyway, continue.
But yeah, I mean, it's the, you need to be solid in the trenches. You win the turnover battle, you win the explosive play battle. So I mean, he kind of, has a lot of the same philosophies, and I just think that he's going to understand how to build this team, from the inside out, that you have to win in the trenches. And I mean, I think even, coaching in the NFL, he's going to know that. And I get that a lot of Nebraska fans are going to have, Mike Riley and Bill Callahan, like PTSD here. But, the thing is, Mike Riley, yeah, he won at Oregon State before he came to Nebraska, but he didn't have the kind of sustained success that I think that Rhule has had, at least at two different places. And, Bill Callahan was never a college head coach before. And just because somebody, we've talked about this before, but, Steve Spurrier was fired in the NFL and had a great success. Nick Saban left the NFL, came back to college. Bobby Petrino is another guy that, if he doesn't, have an affair with a college co-ed girl, he's still coaching at Arkansas. You know what I mean? And he was winning a bunch of games there. So just because someone doesn't win in the NFL doesn't mean that they can't win in college. And so, I mean, you look at the other guys out there. I mean, I definitely would take Matt Rhule over, Leipold from Kansas. I mean, I know that he was kind of up in the mix and there was talk about, why he didn't come or whatever. But I think that Trev I really feel like the top three was Matt Rhule, Chris Kleiman, and Luke Fickell. And I think he made a run at those other two guys. And I think it just ended up that Rhule was the one that he could get. Those other two guys didn't want to leave their situation, but give Trev a lot of credit, because if you don't get Matt Rhule, the drop off to the next guy, I think, would have been somewhat steep. You're talking about Jeff Munkin or the Jeff Traylor guy from, UTSA, or, Doreen. I mean, so I think that, to get a guy that like Oregon wanted and that some SEC schools wanted before he went to the NFL, I think it's a big get for Nebraska. I really do.
Well, that's the hard thing about trying to get all these up and coming names. A lot of them are often building programs in their own right that are really performing well. I mean, you talk about the Kansas coaches in Leipold and Kleiman. I mean, I don't see why they would ever want to leave their respective programs right now. They are on a very good high right now, and um, they have really turned some heads this season. So I'm very happy with Matt Rhule. I saw in a tweet that and I don't know if you saw this or if you could add a little bit more clarity to it, that Nebraska was like talking to the Panthers or something about the specifics of the Panthers buyout or something.
Well, I think just the way that it works is, so the Panthers owe Matt Rhule, I think, $34 million or whatever is the buyout. And so I think that in some ways, money that he gets from Nebraska will take away from that buyout. I don't know exactly how that works, but I think that's been part of the, conversation. So I don't know if it's a situation where if like he signs a, contract with Nebraska, if that's, I guess if it would be fully guaranteed or whatever, then maybe that would take the place of some of the Panthers buyout or almost all of it. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked at the contract, but I think that's what they're talking about. But I don't think I don't think the Panthers have much impact on it, other than like Nebraska can't go and there's like a stipulation, I believe, where you have to pay like fair market value. So you can't
Okay.
so like Nebraska can't be like, hey, Matt, we're going to pay you like $2 million a year over the next 5 years because Carolina's paying you this much money already. So that's kind of where they basically have to kind of pay him, a market rate, which I'm assuming his contract's going to be about $8 or $9 million a year. So, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if it was 10. I mean, I get
Yeah.
that that's a big number, but people just need to deal with it. It's not my money. It's not your money. So who
Yeah.
cares?
And
It's like,
I'll
it's all
tell you what.
funny money.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
is
it's like in free
monopoly
agency.
money.
Yeah, I mean, you just in NFL or really any free agency anymore, you just have to overpay people, and
Yeah.
that's how it works. And if, like, and then but the thing is if Matt Rhule, if he wins a few years, I mean, yeah, he'll probably get an extension, but he'll be worth it because like if he puts together 10-win seasons at Nebraska, I mean, he's definitely going to be worth $10 million a year because like
Yeah.
just the economic side of it and
Would
the
be building him a
tickets and.
statue.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they
But
wouldn't be hawking tickets for half
yeah.
price, you know what I mean, to get the sellout streak going. I mean, that's and Trev has admitted that, he said the product on the field has to get better, and it does, or that sellout streak isn't going to continue.
I'll tell you what, that Carolina Panthers buyout would never make me want to coach again. But all the power to him, because that shows that he wants to be at Nebraska and wants to build a program. But me, I'd just be sipping some Mai Tais on the beach somewhere. Yeah, but to each his own, and I'm excited to have him here. If in fact it's all true, I think it's pretty much all but the announcement at this point. So I am
Yeah.
excited, and I'm excited because again, the early signing day or the transfer portal window opens on December 6th. The early signing day happens about 2 weeks after, I think, or maybe the week after. I'm not sure, but
I
there's
think
a
it's
lot
like
of
the 21st or 22nd or
21st.
something in there.
There's a lot of stuff coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see. And I kind of joked on Twitter that the last couple of off seasons have been almost more fun to follow than the team itself during the season. So I think we're in for another one of those this coming winter.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of moves, and yeah, there's going to be the next couple of weeks leading up to signing day is going to be crazy. I think we're going to have a lot of action in the transfer portal, but yeah, I mean, to get back to something that you said, people are talking about Matt Rhule, his motivation, and I wrote this today. Nebraska, this is a pressure cooker of a job, and he knows that it's he could sit around and just say, hey, I'm going to sit on my like you said, I could sip my ties, and he could probably have a cushy, job doing TV or something, and still make a decent amount of money and really not have any pressure or not have to do. So I think that shows that this guy wants to be a head football coach. And, this is still for people who really love the game like that. And he's a Big Ten guy. I know Nebraska's not a Big Ten team, but, they're Midwest. People in the Midwest know Nebraska football. And so I feel like, this job obviously is attractive enough to him to make him, want to accept this challenge. And I think that shows he's that kind of guy that, Trev wants, where he's, I want a grinder. I want a guy who just wants to coach football, doesn't have hobbies, doesn't, want to play 100 rounds of golf every year or whatever. I just want a football coach. And I think that's what they got. I don't know Matt Rhule personally, but, I like a lot of the things that I've read about him. And
Yeah.
look, there is no guaranteed hire. I think we've learned that after Scott Frost, and that all fell apart. There is no home run guarantee. They have to make the right decisions on a day-to-day basis, and the good ones do that. And but they also surround themselves with really smart people. I mean, you look at all the great head coaches: Bill Belichick, Bill Walsh, Nick Saban. All these guys had really smart people around them, and they were smart about, they coached their coaches. Really good head coaches, they develop their staff because they know the better coaches that are underneath them, the better the players are going to be. And so, yeah, I really think it's going to be fun to watch him put this staff together. I know there's been talk about like Jeff Collins, the fired Georgia Tech head coach, coming as like a DC. I know Elijah Robinson, who is the D-line
That's
coach.
nice.
Yeah, the Elijah Robinson, and I want to say that's the name, but he's the D-line coach for Texas A&M. And if Nebraska is able to get him, that would be such a massive hire. He's one of the best recruiters in the country. They would have to pay over $1 million just to get this guy coaching their D-line, but hopefully it's worth it. And
At
it
this point,
seemed,
I don't care. Just throw as much money as you can at anybody. Have them come here if they're proven, and you know, it's just time to win.
well, and it seems, it sounded like they were negotiating with assistant salaries instead. Like, I think Rule knows what it takes to win. And Nebraska's got the facilities, they've got the NIL, and if you get a good staff in here, I really, I think it's going to pay dividends. So, I really feel like that Trev's going to go that extra mile and kind of give him that pool for money. And
Mm.
we'll see how that all plays out. But yeah, I would love to see, maybe Bill Bush still on the staff, but it's hard to see how that works out. I mean, you have to, as the head coach, you have to get people that you trust too, because
Mm.
at the same time, if Matt Rhule doesn't win in 3 or 4 years, he's going to be right back getting fired again. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. But I don't know. I'm not 100% certain Mickey's going to be back, but I feel like there's a good chance that he will, and I'm hoping that Rule makes the right move there, because then I feel like we're not going to have to worry so much about our 2023 class.
I feel like if Mickey doesn't come back, it's going to be on Mickey's terms and not because Rule doesn't want him. I mean, I don't have any inside knowledge that that's true. That's just my gut feeling. Because I think Mickey, for better or for worse, he's kind of gotten a taste of, head coaching capabilities. Now, did he do so hot? No, but that wasn't all his fault. I'm not going to get into that, but he's gotten a taste of, other avenues in the coaching world, and so maybe he would want to go somewhere else and explore. Maybe he wants to stay here, continue to help build the program, but we'll see. I'd love to have Mickey and Applewhite and Bush on staff, but I'm also excited to see some of the new names that Matt Rhule could potentially bring in.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like Mickey could come back and not be the coordinator or anything. So I mean, you could still. So that's the thing, is you're going to have to pay. You're going to probably have four assistants who are making 750K or more when you're looking at an offensive coordinator, Mickey, a D-line coach, and then a defensive coordinator. So I mean, they're really going to have to pay up for this, and that's just how it works anymore. So well, I do think it's going to be interesting with Mickey. I think that he, would have opportunities to coach elsewhere if he wanted to. I think there's going to be a meeting, probably, obviously, with him and Rhule, and hopefully they keep him, because I do think that he would be a great asset. And like, this win is going to really, even though Mickey went 3-6 as the interim head coach, this win is going to put a lot better mark on his record, because the thing that athletic directors want to see is, beating a good team like on the road. And, he weathered that adversity. And, if Casey Thompson hadn't gotten hurt, they probably would have won, more games. They might have got to a bowl game. So I do think that he helped himself in the future to get a head coaching job. And he just has to keep, taking those kind of steps in his development. And I think he can do that at Nebraska. Now, hopefully that works out. But that's my first question, because I think, if you get Mickey to stay, then you've got a chance to get Casey to stay, maybe Trey Palmer if he doesn't want to go to the NFL yet. And then we'll see how some of the other guys go. But I definitely think if Mickey's on staff, like Malachi Coleman's commitment isn't going to be a big thing.
Yeah, no, and I'll be interested to see how those conversations go. I know there's probably going to be a ton of speculation surrounding it, but I'll just be happy when we get an official word or anything. And it's kind of interesting. You said that if Casey played more, we probably would have won a couple games. I had somebody tweet at me today that if we hadn't had a third grader at quarterback playing, that we probably could have won a couple more games. But it's interesting. I hope Casey comes back. If if I was Casey, I would want to guarantee that we get improved line play or some new linemen or something, because I wouldn't want to put my body through that again. But it'll be interesting. This is a crucial point for the program. This is a crucial point for Trev, and you know if this hire works, then that will be great. If this hire doesn't work, then I don't think Trev's going to be here much longer.
No, he's not. He won't be. If Matt Rhule isn't a success, then Trev Albert's tenure won't be viewed as a success, and he knows that. He knows he knows the score. He knows the time on the clock. He understands this business enough, and I think that's why he went the extra mile to make sure that this deal with Rhule got done. Because on Monday, and obviously reports change and there's conflicting reports, but on Monday or Tuesday or whatever it was, it seems like it's been a month, but
Yep.
it sounded like he was out, that he wasn't going to, take the deal, that he was going to pursue. People started talking about Texas A&M, and if Jimbo ended up going to West Virginia and all this crazy stuff, and Rhule could hop in there with his old Texas ties. And so I think the fact that, I don't know what Trev Alberts did, but he got the guy, he got the job done. And I'm hoping that it's, frankly, I don't care. I don't know why people care what the money is. I don't understand that
Yeah,
at
that
all.
blows my mind. Like,
Like,
you're
who
not
gives a
paying
shit?
the
Exactly.
you're not paying the money. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, like if you were paying the money, I could see. But like
Yeah, like the
9
boosters who are paying
yeah,
the check, like they
yeah,
have a right to gripe, I guess.
yeah.
But
Nine
I'm
point
not
five
really.
million is too much for a guy that's never won. Blah blah blah. Well, are you paying the 9.5
Yeah,
million? No, then just shut up and be quiet.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
like, I don't know. It's just the weirdest thing. It's just another day in Husker Twitter. You know how
Yeah,
it is. You know how it
yeah.
goes.
So what do you think? Because I don't know if Trev said this, but the 80% thing, and that's kind of been put out there, that 80% of the fan base was going to like this hire. What do you think? What's your temperature of how many people like this hire, and how many people hate it or whatever?
Well, I'm gonna break this down, and I know you probably want a simple, quick answer, but you could tell the people that know football and know Matt Rhule and how he like built the programs, and then there's the rest of the Facebook crowd who just shout into the abyss, say that Rhule sucks and this, that, and the other thing. My reading on it is maybe 57% like the hire, 43% don't, because there's a lot of people who are kind of underwhelmed, but that's what I mean when Matt Rhule is not really a sexy name. He's a grinder that can build a program. A lot of these fans want a sexy name, but it's also just as important to, get a coach that knows how to, again, build a program, offensive and defensive line success, somebody who grinds. So I'd say the majority of the fans are in favor of it, but it isn't a 80 to 20 majority. It's more like a 57-43 reading.
Yeah, and I think, there does, in some ways need to be, it's like people want, oh, well, he's not going to be able to win us like a national championship. But like, no, duh, man. Like, I don't know if Nick Saban could come here and win one. Like it's hard. It's not easy. And I mean, maybe he could after a while, but like we need a coach. Nebraska just needs to win like between 8 and 10 games every year. Like I think that that's realistic. Eight, it should be that hard to go 8-4. Like even with USC and UCLA, and then like every, I mean, once you get to the 12-team playoff, I mean, if you win the Big Ten West, you're right there. So I mean, I'm not saying Nebraska should make it every year, but my expectation for them is like I think about the Bo Pelini era of being ranked all the time, winning a lot of games. I feel like that should be kind of like the baseline for the program. And then every few years, everything falls your way, and maybe you can win the, get to the Big Ten title game or whatever. But even if you're the third best team in the Big Ten, you might be in the playoff, when it gets to 12 teams.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah, and let's just start with winning like 3 games in a row first before we have national championship aspirations. I mean, yeah, I think with the way college football is set up now, it's obviously trending towards like the Alabama and the Clemsons and the Ohio State. So I don't know if Nebraska will ever like be able to get back to a national championship level, but I do think they could get back to a level of consistent success where, like you said, 8, 9 wins a year, competing for, I don't know, maybe conference championships or competing for
at
first
least
in
just
the
being in the
division.
mix,
Yeah.
though,
Yeah, right.
just like coming into the, going into November and just like having a, having something to play for besides, like I hope we can scratch a bowl game or, something. And I feel like that's possible, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's not going to be an immediate turnaround, though. I mean, this team does have talent, but there's a ton of questions about who's going to be back. And so I don't know. What do you think about? What do you think? What are your early expectations for like next? Like, what do you think is a realistic thing for next season?
Just in terms of record,
Yeah,
honestly, maybe 7-5 because there's a lot of talent. And right off the top of my head, I'm thinking of Minnesota in the opener. There's going to be no more Tanner Morgan, no more Mo Ibrahim, and there's going to be certain playmakers that are going to be gone for opposing teams that I think will help us. But I think honestly, my 7-5 prediction hinges on the fact that Casey Thompson is going to come back, maybe improve his draft stock a little bit, or just get on the draft radar period, and kind of help stabilize the quarterback position. If he doesn't come back, I think things could be a little bit rough. Yes, I know that there's the transfer portal quarterback, but like we talked about the other day, it's hard for a transfer portal quarterback to come into a program, learn the system within an off season, and then have instant success. It's not easy to do. So I think my 7-5 record prediction hinges on the fact that Casey comes back, and then a 7-5 season with a bowl game win, maybe that would be a good place to start building from. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
no, I think I'm thinking 6-6. I think a bowl game is a realistic goal for next season because the schedule we broke that down.
It's
It's
pretty
not that.
favorable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty favorable. It's because you play Colorado early, and they're going to be having a first-year head coach, and they're even worse than Nebraska, like for sure, way worse than Nebraska, just in terms of talent and infrastructure. And because I mean, Nebraska had top 25 classes under Scott Frost. We haven't had a winning season. We're literally the only FBS program that hasn't been to a bowl in the last 5 years. So I have to.
UConn broke that
Yeah,
streak this year.
I know.
Like,
I know.
like
So I
UConn.
mean, yeah, and UConn, I mean, they're a good. I mean, and I know that, yeah, they didn't beat everybody, but they beat Liberty, they beat Boston College. I mean, they beat like some legit teams to that.
Boston
If you,
College is not legit, which is why I
well, you're
didn't.
right,
Which is
but
why I didn't want Dave Doreen because he
yeah, because he
lost to
just lost to
BC. I'm
Boston.
like,
Yeah,
yeah, like get him out of here. No way.
but I mean, that shows
Yeah.
with a good head coach. I mean, because UConn's roster was terrible, and Jim Mora, kind of quickly turned that around. But yeah, I definitely think 6 wins is possible. But yeah, the quarterback is going to be a big deal, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to go find if Casey leaves, they're going to have to find someone in the transfer portal. And what I think they need to do is, here's a name that's going to be interesting though, is because I do think like Cade McNamara from Michigan is going to be in the transfer portal. Like he's not going to come back and be JJ McCarthy's backup. And so like that's a quarterback I would love
Yeah.
to see Nebraska get. Let's the
Yep.
guy that does not turn the football over, run the football, get some offensive linemen. But that there could be other guys though too. She's I'm trying to think of
Chubba Purdy.
yeah, not Chubba Purdy, not Chubba Purdy, but there could be some others from LSU. It's going to be interesting to see kind of how it all works out. But there's definitely guys, and I would think that we'll see, but I would expect probably Logan Smothers to transfer.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm surprised he
Chuba,
stuck it out as long as he did, honestly, to
yeah,
be honest with you.
Chuba, I don't think can transfer because he would have
No.
to sit out another year. So I mean, I'd be surprised if he did. So he, I mean,
Oh.
I think it's yeah, I don't know. It might be too early. If he gets a solid quarterback coach, then and who knows, man? He didn't look healthy at the end of this year either. So
No, everybody looked banged up, honestly, at the end of this year.
because he
And
did not
then
look like he was
yeah.
throwing the ball like the same as he was in fall camp. I mean, because he was kind of slinging around and he was like doing the shot put thing, and it's like
Yeah.
it just looked weird. He didn't look right to
In the
me.
spring game, he looked really, really good. So
Yeah,
that was a little bit weird to me. I was just like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I could see Whipple just putting him out there to try to prove a point. Meanwhile, Chubb's arm is falling off, and like he can't throw, but Whipple just wants him out there so he can prove a point. But I hope he gets healthy, and I know I like to crap on him, but if he can get healthy and get a good quarterbacks coach and get a good offensive line, then maybe he can be better. Maybe he can get that throwing motion back. And, you know, again, it all comes back to the offensive line with the running game, with the quarterbacks, all comes back to the offensive line. I'm not as worried about the defense, but I think there's a lot of good young pieces there. Houseman,
yep.
Hartzog, Gifford. I think there's a lot of good young talent on the defensive
Miles
side of the
Farmer
ball.
made some
Miles
nice plays
Farmer,
today.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, we'll see if Garrett Nelson comes back. I mean, that'd be huge. I don't know if he's going to or not, but that's going to have to be Matt Rhule's going to have to try to recruit those guys back. But that's where somewhere, Garrett Nelson and like Trey Palmer and Casey Thompson, those would all be great candidates to say, hey, play at Nebraska for another year, and we're going to get you a $500,000 NIL deal, so you can still get, not much, about the same as you would make as a rookie. Because frankly, none of you guys are probably
yeah.
going to get drafted all that high outside of
Yeah.
Trey. But I definitely think I think Nelson and Palmer, I think, would get drafted. That's my
And a
opinion.
healthy Luke Reimer on the defense, I'd be curious to see what he would do next year because he's been banged up and he just didn't look the same in comparison to 2021. So, I hope he comes back healthy and because he wasn't even in uniform today, was he? He was in street clothes.
Yeah, he didn't play today.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So,
but yeah, and Houshman played really well. He's a
yeah,
star. He's a star. Hartzog is going to be good. I like Farmer. I like, Gifford just makes plays whenever he's out on the field.
much like his brother.
Yeah. Ty Robinson, I have to give him credit. He played a
Yeah.
lot better down the stretch, and I just think finding the right scheme and, it's amazing what can happen because, I've said this before, but like 2020, Michigan looked like dog crap. They looked like dog crap. And then with a lot of the same players, they won the Big Ten championship. So coaching really does matter in a lot of ways. So, I'm excited to actually get a coach that has some idea of being in the trenches and also a guy that's not, he doesn't have to call plays or anything. So I feel like,
Yeah.
hopefully he's better at clock management because our clock management hasn't been great, but
That was
doesn't
awful.
matter. We won the game, so whatever.
We did win the game, and it was a nice send off. And now we have to look forward to the sinking ship that is the basketball team.
Yeah, lost 73-61 to Memphis. So
Was that today? Although
yeah,
Memphis was good. Memphis
Memphis
made
is
it there.
good. Yeah. So I
But
mean, it's tough. Oklahoma and Memphis are both like top 40
yeah.
teams. So I mean, I'm not surprised they didn't win those games, but we'll see. They play again Sunday, and it's going to be rough if they can't win one game on this trip and go
Who is it?
0-3.
BC, right?
No, this is
No.
still in that ESPN. So
Oh.
they're in like the 7th place game. So I'm not. It'll be it'll be based on how the. So
Sounds about right. Yep.
Yeah, so hopefully it can take 7th place at this tournament. I'm not sure how you. Oh man, that's hilarious.
Oh, we're already winning trophies in November, huh?
Yeah,
7th place trophy.
yeah, put it up in the. That'll probably be the best trophy Fred Hoiberg's ever won.
I was gonna say the boosters better save their money for a basketball hire because I think I think a basketball hire might be coming sooner than we think. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not. Yeah, it's just.
We'll
I
see
don't
after
know,
they lose
man.
100-0 to Michigan in the middle of January, and then
I don't know.
we'll be able to say.
Michigan's not looking so great. So I don't know about that.
Well, it's not like we're world beaters this year, so.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Having Derek Walker back hopefully will help. I didn't watch a
Oh,
lick of the game today, so I'll have to try to rewatch it or something, but see what happened there. But
but no, yeah. So Fred, you better hope you have a good Big Ten showing here this year, because
yeah.
I think you might be next.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I think we're going to about wrap it up here. We were going to do about 30 minutes, so before we stay on here for too long, but just make sure to, follow along at the Husker Big Red YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel, like our videos, get into our comment section. We try to, always comment back if you're,
Yep.
offering up your thoughts. And also make sure that you check out both of our sites. We got huskerbigred.com for me and thegreatcornholio.org for Danny. So you can follow all of our content there. We've got our Twitter bios, at the bottom here for anybody who's watching on the replay or, joining us here on the stream. So, make sure you follow us along there. And let's enjoy this victory. And, let's freaking own Iowa fans on Twitter because, it's been a rough 8 years. And for
Yeah.
at least 365 days, man, I'm gonna soak up this victory. And I know we're not going to a bowl game this year, but this was a great way to end the season. So I'm just stoked that we got the win and we got a head coach.
Thanks for following along this year, everybody. It's been fun. It's been crazy. I appreciate all the support and interaction. This thing has blown up more than I thought. Great Cornholio. It's doing great on Twitter, so I really appreciate it. I know Chris appreciates you guys interacting with him as well. And although we come off as assholes sometimes, we really do love you all. So we appreciate the support.
And we always love the Huskers, even if we talk bad about them. We always love them.
Absolutely.
Just get a little emotional sometimes, but hey,
Yep.
that's what being a fan is about. That's what I always say. Being a fan is if you're not like crazy, it's like that Dr. Pepper commercial where they're like, you haven't posted
Yep.
anything crazy in them. Like that's just what it is.
Yep.
Like I have to sometimes put my phone down or I'll like tweet some shit that will make everybody hate me because I just have not a rational person when I'm watching Nebraska sports. So that's why sometimes if you're like, God, this guy's an asshole. Yes, I am. Sometimes in those moments, I am an asshole, but cooler heads do prevail. So thanks for following along. And one thing you'll always get from us, unbridled passion and no nonsense opinions about what needs to happen. So
Absolutely.
So thanks for following along, everybody. Let's enjoy it. Let's get drunk tonight and go Big Red.
Go Big Red.